Hey guys, it's V Man from No Budget Productions, and with me today is my good friend Roy, Admiral Vanden Boss himself. Roy, how we doing, man?
I'm doing fine. I'm talking to you here from a secure location, from the future, the past, the present. Who knows?
You are all over the place. You Section 31 ISK self, you right on, man. So on today's show, I figured we would talk about kind of our love of Star Trek. We're kind of hitting kind of a second golden age of Star Trek, I would say, with Lower Decks and Discovery and Star Trek Picard and uh, Strange New Worlds. Everybody talks about the old golden age Star Trek. I kind of want to talk about like both, like what the new versus the old, and the good, the bad, like the whole kit and caboodle. Um, what are your thoughts on this new renaissance of Star Trek that we're in? Because some people hate it, some people love it. What are your thoughts on it now that we have it? Because I mean, there for a while, it didn't seem like we were ever even going to get anything new Star Trek. It seemed like it was kind of stuck in the past, and now it just seems like every week they just got something new thrown at us. What are your thoughts on Star Trek now as kind of a new franchise, kind of the new MCU for sci-fi nerds?
Well, I'm glad that they've come back to story being king. I think they got back into it on with the wrong idea of, which is necessary, is to make money. What it was,
Yeah,
but I think that they were a little caustic in the use of Star Trek and thought they could just slap the name of it on anything and sell it, and that's just not true. That's not true, because the fans are very critical of things and what they think Star Trek is, and I'm glad that finally, um, even though we've had some missteps with the series, whatever else, we found a group of stories that satisfy people. And I just think that Strange New Worlds is fantastic. It's an air. It's owes a lot to the. It pays homage to the original Star Trek, and it moves forward, and it has hope, and
yeah,
that has been missing from New Trek, and it's just like I like those other shows. I've watched Discovery and watched Picard, but they're more like celebrity shows. They're more like I'm watching because the people involved and they're doing it. But saying that it has a bunch of Star Trek characters in it. No, not Star Trek actors in it.
yeah,
That interests me, but it's not really Star Trek. But
yeah.
but it is worthwhile, and it does bring something else to the table.
Well, and that's the one thing that especially the earlier seasons of Discovery and uh, you know most of Picard, I would say it's got a lot more for me. And again, it's a personal taste. Anyone that's watching this is like, you just hate new Trek. That's not the case. But for me, it's got a lot more misses than hits. I loved the mirror stuff in the first season. I loved um, Captain Lorca. In fact, I've said before, he was one of my favorite captains until I found out he was a bad guy. I was like, oh man, what's that say about me? But there were things that I liked about the show, but I found myself each week going, oh, okay, new Star Trek on tonight. I'll get to it when I get to it. But with Strange New Worlds, I was salivating. I was like, man, I can't wait, man. The time, oh man, it's 1 more hour, 30 more minutes, and I didn't find that with Discovery or with Picard. And with Picard, that whole first season, I was like, man, this is it's a hot mess. We got characters who really don't need to be here. It's storylines that just don't really pan out. And with Star Trek, with season 2 of Picard, I really only cared for like the first 2 episodes, maybe the last one of season 2. The whole middle was just like, what are we doing? It was a convoluted mess. It was like, fuck, man, you could just scrimp this down to like 3 episodes, maybe 4, and call it good. I I felt like it wasn't worth watching every week, or rushing to watch. It was Strange New Worlds. My God, that was Star Trek at its best. At least modern. That and Lower Decks. I always laugh at Lower Decks now. Those two I feel are the best. I feel like they're giving us quality.
Yes, I think that the motivation uh, wasn't established well in Picard, and things happened in Picard because they needed to happen,
Yeah,
because they were driven to happen, or that they should happen. But Picard himself reacted in ways that didn't make any sense, because he
yeah,
was just a guest star in his own show, where he just
yeah,
had here to there, as opposed to, hey, what are you doing blowing up the ship, and what are you doing with this, things that logically should have been explained to him. Instead, they skipped right over it because, like, he was all knowing. And other,
Well, to me, it felt more like, and again, I could be wrong. It felt more like this is Patrick Stewart in a Star Trek show, instead of this is 20 years after Next Gen, and this is Captain Picard, or Jean-Luc Picard. It didn't feel like an evolution of the character. It just felt like the actor has returned in the show. And as much as it is wonderful to see, Patrick Stewart, I want to see Jean-Luc Picard. That's that's who I want to see in a Star Trek show. He didn't act very Jean-Luc like, and there were wonderful character moments, like between Q and Jean-Luc, in the final episode of that season. But again, to me, it's like, man, we lasted and wasted all season just to have a hug. Man, if you want to hug Patrick Stewart, come to my house. I'll give you a hug. It's you really crave that. To me, again, you wasted so many storylines that really kind of went nowhere, and I felt like it was a disservice to the characters.
I don't think they knew where they were going when they were
Yeah,
writing. It says, though, they were writing it episode by episode, even though it was supposed to be a big story.
yeah.
Instead, it was just pieces, and cool things happened, but those things weren't necessarily connected.
Well, the thing that got me was like how many times he just kept stopping and daydreaming. Like in the middle of a Borg fight, he stops and daydreams about his mom, and then again he's off fighting whatever and daydreams about. And I'm like, dude, seriously, stop with these flashbacks. Like tell the story of that, and then have him go here and do these things. Like these flashbacks are getting annoying because again, at a certain point you just stop caring because you don't know where you're jumping around at, and it gets to the point where it's just like, oh, here we go again. And again, like you don't have that problem with Strange New Worlds. They tell a very focused story. If they do have a flashback, it's really tight. I'm reminded of uh, the security officer who has that flashback of the Gorn stuff. Um, and like they used it wisely, whereas with Picard it's like, okay, we don't have anything to fill the gap here, and we still got 20 minutes for the episode. Let's throw in some flashbacks here of shit we don't care about. And again, like we saw Picard's mom as an old lady, and they try to justify it in that one line of dialogue where, oh, sometimes I imagine her as an old lady trying to give me tea. Like, come on, man, you're breaking your own canon here. It's just, you know, uh, again, I thought those first two episodes were very tight. It left me wanting more, but then what they gave us, I was like, this, it's not, it's not what I like. The Strange New Worlds. Oh my God, that was so great. What was it like for you? Because you really enjoy TOS a lot more than I do. I think is that a fair assessment?
I grew up on TOS, yes.
Um, Watching that spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the season finale of Strange New Worlds. Watching that season finale with their take on Balance of Terror, kind of a what if. What was that like? Did you? Because I heard some people they just kind of ripped it a new one, like this is not good. This is nowhere near. I watched it and I was like, man, I love this. This is wonderful. What was your take on it?
Um, I think people watch this too closely, and then they also don't watch it close enough, where they're not paying attention to what the story that is being told. Uh, it doesn't have to exactly match Balance of Terror because it's not the Balance of Terror. It's the Balance of Terror with Christopher Pike. So there's going to be differences. Um, and then there's the whole idea that there's going to be differences because we brought it up into the modern age and we're using top of the line effects and acting has changed and do we really want to be completely restricted by what's happened in the 60s? You know, I love Shatner. I love those stories. Those stories are still there.
Yeah,
All the TOS is right there, and we can recreate it right now. Constar recreates Star Trek Adventures all the time, and we can go to that time and place almost anytime we want. You can watch it on TV anywhere.
right.
So I think that, but I think that Strange New Worlds has found a way to touch upon those things and build on it. I mean, I almost look at I look at Anson Williams and I see Pike. You know,
Yeah.
it's it's very easy for me to see that as the past. I couldn't see that with Discovery, but
No.
that but with Strange New Worlds, it's like it could have happened this way. We could have been looking the other direction. Uh, the you know, it's you have to expect that things move on. You know, other people play Macbeth. They've done it for years and years. You know, and uh, new actors play the role all the time. You know, and have a different interpretation, and you don't come down and say, "Hey, that's not right." You know.
Well, it's funny. Like I personally love the Pike era bridge. You know, the kind of Buck Rogers esque.
Yeah.
I'm not really into the kind of color aesthetic that they had for TOS. I kind of prefer the grays and the blacks and the light blues that they had for the Cage era. You know, when they colorize it. You know, how that looks. You know, I like it. You know, the kind of submarine vibe that the Pike era stuff had. Um, but again, it has that kind of Buck Rogers vibe, you know, because that's what Star Trek was kind of trying to emulate, you know, the laser gun that they had. You know, I love the Pike phaser. I love the Pike communicator where it's kind of a glass look, you know, very, very retro sci-fi. I love that look. Um, Flip side of the coin, I love what they've done with Strange New Worlds, where they've really updated the kind of TOS aesthetic. There's nods to the Cage stuff. There's nods to what came before. I saw online they had a picture of Anson Mount and the guy who played Robert April. They were in Cage area uniforms, so it's a picture that Pike in the Wrath of Khan uniform he picks up, looks at it, and you can only see it for like a short frame. But they're in the Cage area uniform that he's looking at that picture, and I love that because I'm like, it shows that, you know, the past, you know, and I love that. And you know, it's those type of things, those type of nods that, you know, because I love the Cage area uniforms. I think they're great. Um, I don't know if they necessarily fit the Strange New Worlds. Personally, I'd love to see them on it because I'm not a big fan of the Strange New Worlds uniform. But you know, to each their own. But I love the look of the the Enterprise, the inside of it. You know how it's updated, whatnot. But I do agree with you. Like this is a what if tale, you know, of Balance of Terror. You know, and I felt like everything leading up to uh, this episode. You know, it's funny how how when we're watching Picard, it's all these. You mentioned how it kind of felt like they were kind of just writing it episode per episode. You know, with this grander arc. You know, but Strange New Worlds is an episode per episode, and that felt more cohesive than Picard, you know. But I really enjoyed Strange New Worlds. you said we couldn't do that with Discovery, looking back with Discovery, and I agree with you 100%. Nothing about Discovery ever felt like it was a prequel to TOS, but looking at Strange New Worlds, everything about it screams this is pre-Kirk. This is around that time. Even if it's, to me, it doesn't feel like it's like 10 years before Kirk or 7 years before. It feels like it's right before Kirk takes over. At least to me it does. It feels like this is around that time period. You don't have, you can generalize the time. It feels like right around that time period. And it feels, again, for a guy who never really cared for TOS, feels like a guy who's like, man, I could pop on TOS and watch because this really gets me interested in that time period. And that's a good thing. That's I feel like Strange New Worlds is meant for people who never really cared for TOS, or people who really want TOS and don't who want more than 79 episodes. But so that being said, what are your thoughts on the Next Generation cast coming back for Star Trek Picard season 3?
Well, I hope it works. Again, problem with Picard is they lack direction and they jump from one thing to the other. We're going to get a third season and another season of the Next Generation, which is exactly what they said they weren't going to do. So, but hey, they can change their minds and whatever else. But I think hopefully they've got a better handle on this. They see the roadmap from Strange New Worlds, and maybe they can jump back to that. All good things. That was a great episode in the Next Generation. If they can get anywhere near that in this next season, that would be incredible. I don't know how they could do it, but I kind of like the fact that they're, you're going with the old actors, whatever else, and
Yeah.
you're gonna see what they can do now. As they advance in years, and the entire crew is going to be older except for Seven and her girlfriend. you know,
Well, I think for me, I think I know they originally agreed to do 3 seasons. And I know Patrick Stewart, when he came back to do season 1, he was like, I don't want to do just another season of Next Gen. That's not really what I want to do. And to me, I really feel like if this is the last season of Picard, you kind of need to bring the Next Gen cast back. Because, like, to me, as a whole, Picard just doesn't work as a series. This has not been something where I'm excited about. I don't give a shit about it. I don't care. I mean, you've got elements that I like, but as a whole, it's not something I'm excited about. It's not something that, would I go see it in theaters? Probably not. I'd probably wait for it to, it wouldn't get me excited as a movie. It wouldn't get me excited as, it's just you've failed to get me excited about the series. But this gets me excited about the show. Like, okay, we get to see our old friends again. Like you said, the last time we saw, these characters from this kind of time period was All Good Things. Even though that was an alternate timeline, it's like, hey, we haven't seen these characters since Star Trek Nemesis last. Where are they at now? What are they doing? The best way to end Picard is, around his friends. When in All Good Things, the last shot we saw was Picard sitting at that, card table with the crew, and they fly off. That should be something. Give us a good send off for not only Picard, but that crew. Like, where are they at? What happened to them? We don't know what happened to Geordi. We don't know what happened to Worf. Don't know what happened to Dr. Crusher. What happened to Riker and Troy? Well, that was kind of hit or miss, So and what happened to Data? It's like, well, I mean, it's a matter of taste. Did you like that storyline or did you not? For me, knowing that they're going to be going up against somebody, some lady from their past, I would imagine it's going to be either Sela or maybe the old Tasha Yar from yesterday's Enterprise, like something like I would imagine it's Denise Crosby because if you're pulling out all the stops and going back to like like I mean pulling out all the stops.
They could always bring in the evil Phantom to.
I like how you think. I like it. I am available if they need. I think there might be room for an Admiral Vandenboss in there if they do need. I think, yeah, they might. But I think there's no better way to go out than with a Next Generation cast. So
Maybe they could bring back the Enterprise crew. The Enterprise crew could have an adventure on the holodeck where Picard was a holo program the entire year. The whole 3 seasons of Picard was a holo program.
That's genius. I remember this from somewhere, but I don't know where. Man, that's genius marketing. Oh my goodness. I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic. And hearing the cast talk about it, like LeVar Burton, talk about how it's the next generation of the next generation. That gets me really excited. What do you think is the best thing about Discovery and the best thing about Star Trek Picard? As someone that really liked Strange New Worlds, and it seems like you kind of have the same opinion I do of Discovery and Picard, what do you think the good things about those two shows were?
The things that weren't Discovery were good. But let's see. Hey, I'm self-admitted. I've watched all the Star Treks. So it doesn't matter, at least from my standpoint, as long as it comes up to, it has some value in Star Trek. And we have some stake in Star Trek because each phase leads to the next.
Right.
If Discovery completely tanked, and even though many people think it did tank, if it wasn't successful, we wouldn't have got Picard, and if we didn't get Picard, we wouldn't have Strange New Worlds. It took them a while to figure it out. It's funny.
Right.
Everyone hates. The guy that makes Strange New Worlds. Who's the big Star Trek guy?
Isn't that Avi Arad, I think it is? Or
Alex Kurtzman?
Oh, Alex Kurtzman. Okay, right.
Okay. I was just watching, I've been binge watching Fringe. Mm-hmm. And he was involved in that, and that was a really good show. I really liked I really liked Fringe, and it had Leonard Nimoy in it, as a side character. And he knows how to make TV, but it's a collaborative effort, and it's hard to, and you have several different masters. But your question about what I think Discovery brought to the table is that they brought it to a new audience. They brought it back to streaming, and they got people back into Star Trek. Star Trek was about ready to fail.
Yeah.
It was about ready to become second or third level entertainment. It was going to drop, below icon status.
It was about to be a was, yeah.
Be a was, yeah. So I'm glad that they finally brought it back. And then Picard is, I think, it was the celebrity factor. We got to see the actors out doing their thing. We liked seeing our actors act, and I always like seeing Picard, Patrick Stewart in whatever he's in, catching Marina Sirtis when and I see these people in other roles and everything else, I applaud them. I love seeing them in whatever other acting roles that they're in, because I see a little bit of the original of my character that I watched them for, and usually you get to see them ply their trade. So I think that yes, if you watch Picard to see Patrick Stewart, Picard is a great show. He gets some real shining moments to do, and other
Yeah.
people shining moments to do. It just doesn't hold together completely
Right.
as a continuation of the Picard character.
Well, I think
But I'm
for me,
glad to add the show, because then it leads to.
well, I think for Discovery, I think despite the fact that it was a little darker than a lot of people would have preferred for such a hopeful series, I like in the first season that they actually spent a lot of time in the Mirror Universe. I think that show um, really delved into the Mirror Universe and what it took to actually be there, and what it took to I mean, it fleshed out. I think the only other series that could kind of compete with that was maybe DS9 on some level. I think Discovery might have outdone it. Um, but I think DS9 and I want to say DS9 probably had maybe one less episode than Discovery, but I think Discovery outdid them by like one episode of a Mirror Universe. But I mean, Discovery, when they went over to the Mirror Universe, I mean, it fit right in. I felt, um, and then when it jumped to the 32nd century, um, I mean, it fit again. It fit right in, to what the hell is going on with the universe. Like everything's chaos, and having to rebuild. To me, I felt that even though the first two seasons weren't as good, it did bring us Anson Mount as Pike, which then brought us, like you said, it brought us Strange New Worlds, which was, I mean, to me, I feel like that rivals as my favorite Star Trek show. And for Picard, it doesn't really get any better than to see in season one, Picard and Riker just chilling, and when you see Riker making a pizza, like, good God, that is, I mean, if Riker can make a pizza and everyone's okay with it, why can't Menard have pizza rolls? And that'd be, to me, it's like, hey, all right. But I mean, in all seriousness, Riker loved to cook, and to see Riker in retirement with Troy, and they have a kid, even though there had been some tragedy, I think we've all had tragedy in our lives, and when you move past it, and you have to move past it, and it's okay to take a step back from the things that used to be the norm, but you step together. And I really loved those scenes, because it outside of all the chaos that Picard was going through, it was a moment to breathe, in that world, and just get reacquainted with your old friends, people that you used to know. And I really appreciated that, and I loved what they brought to the table. It was really good. I like that. So those are two things that I really loved from the two seasons, even though I felt the whole, series as a whole, it's kind of hit or miss, but I loved those things that they brought. I thought they were really good. So, but we hear that we may be getting a new Kelvin movie. Um, if we do get another one, are you excited about that with the Kelvin crew? Did you like the Kelvin movies as a whole? The three that we got with J.J. Abrams coming to the table?
Uh, yes, I did. I didn't like Into the Darkness all that much, but uh, the films were perfectly cast. Uh, Kirk was the weakest one, but not bad. But McCoy is just, Carl Urban as McCoy was just great.
Great.
Again, showing how much an actor can be different. That he can play such a perfect McCoy.
Yeah.
Be in Homelander, be in The Boys, and be such a different character in that. And
Oh yeah.
been Judge Dredd, and he's been some other things. He's a good actor, but he just really transcended himself with being able to take on the McCoy role, and but those other people were also well cast, and they sparklers. But other than that, it was a good show. I liked Star Trek Beyond. I thought
Yeah.
the marketing got screwed up somehow or whatever else, but that should have done much better than than what it did. And I have some bad feelings with Abrams because of Star Wars and him kind of dissing Star Trek. But you know, he's a he's a filmmaker, and
Yeah.
he makes films, and I like the Kelvin role or whatever else. I would have been especially excited to see a Tarantino Star Trek. It would have been interesting. It wouldn't
Yes.
anything we've ever seen before. We're not going to get it.
Well, from what he was saying, it was going to be like his take on like yesterday's Enterprise and City on the Edge of Forever, like an alternate time, like a real. And I was just like, good God, this sounds so epic. I really want to see that because I mean, just knowing that he's a hardcore Star Trek fan and that he's bringing up, he's like, yeah, if you're a fan of yesterday's Enterprise and City on the Edge of Forever, like I really want to go there. And I'm like, dude, yes. Like just the fact you're bringing up these episodes like that, I mean, that tells me right there, like your shit. Like, yes, I mean, I would have loved to have seen, just let me read the script. Whatever you have, like let me see that would have been so epic. I mean, I think he's one of the better filmmakers, back in the heyday. Like, oh my God, he was so good, so good. But I agree with your Star Trek Beyond. I think personally for me, I think that one is the closest to the original series. um, I think it's the best. I think it's the best film that they have. Um, I agree with the marketing. I think it could have been better. I don't know why they kind of seem to lose faith in it. But I think Scotty, the guy who played Scotty, I forget his name, but him, McCoy, Sulu, those three, plus Chekhov. I think those four were perfect. Perfect for the. I really wasn't. I didn't care for the guy who played Kirk. Didn't really care for the guy who played Spock, although I thought he would have been a good Spock. Once he actually got the role, I was like, something's off. It doesn't feel quite right to me. I felt like when he played Siler in Heroes, I
Yeah,
always watched it and I was like, man, this guy would be a great Spock. And then he got the role of Spock, and I was like, you're not bringing it. Why aren't you bringing it? And then I didn't really care for the lady who played Uhura. I felt like I felt like, do you even want to be here? you know. But I felt like Sulu, Chekhov, Scotty, and McCoy. I felt like those four were just. I felt like they really loved uh, the Star Trek world that they were creating. Um, I felt like for them it was more than just a job. I mean, obviously it's all a job for all of them, but I felt like they actually wanted to make a great product. I felt like it wasn't about the paycheck for them. Again, I could be wrong. I've never really read much of anything, seen anything. It's just a vibe you get when you watch a movie. But I just wasn't really involved with Kirk or Spock or Uhura. I didn't really like that. But I did like Star Trek Beyond. I felt like that was the strongest of the movies. Sadly, it was the weakest of the reception. So I hope they do get another one. Maybe we'll see the Wrath of Khan uniforms, or maybe the motion picture pajamas that they got. you know.
I think it took. I think you saw Chris Pine finally grow into the role by Beyond, and the next one should really be good if he actually winds up making it.
Yeah.
Uh, I guess Shatner is hard to do Shatner without doing Shatner. You know, so uh, and it's impossible to do Shatner. Without the funny aspects, whatever else.
Yeah.
And pay him proper respect. You know, because it's an exaggeration as opposed to a real capturing of what he brought to Kirk.
Well, here's a question. Two questions actually. One, um, what did you think of the guy who played Kirk in the Balance of Terror episode? What did you think of him? Did you think And how would you compare that to like Chris Pine playing Kirk? Because a lot of people, he got a lot of hate online, and I didn't think he did too bad. I was like, I don't mind him. I liked it. I mean, to me, I felt it fit the story. What do you think?
Again, people paying too much attention and not paying enough attention, both at the same time. You know,
Right.
the Kirk in Balance of Terror is not the Kirk from the original Balance of Terror. It's not the Kirk. Um, he's different. He's a captain of a ship, but he does not have Spock. He does not have Scotty as an engineer. He doesn't have uh, Uhura. He has been built up, and he has other people on his sides. So he doesn't have the same experience coming into that show. He has not had the same life experience as the Kirk we know. He has a great bit of it, but he's not. It could not be expected to be the same James T. Kirk that we knew, and I think that the fellow did a really good job coming in as Kirk, but not exactly Kirk. And I'm sure that he'll do better in the future when they bring him back. But he's going to change. He won't be the same when he comes back. He'll be a Kirk in training.
Yeah, like a cadet or a lieutenant or something. Yeah.
We all grow along the space of time of what we are. Menard didn't pop out as a complete character originally. He grew into the character that he was to become. Van Boss, who knows? Maybe he did pop out just exactly like this. But, I think that characters should be given enough time to grow. And I think that he did nothing that was un-Kirk-like.
Well, and that's the thing that I always defended it. I was like, this is Kirk of the Farragut. This isn't Kirk of the Enterprise. And you're absolutely right. Like, he has different life experiences. It's no different than, hey, Kirk of the Kelvin universe is different than Kirk of our universe. So this is no different. And I didn't see anything. You're right. He has, you can have the best chef in the world, but if all he's got is ramen noodles, you can only cook those up a certain amount before you're like, how good are those ramen noodles? And that's the same thing here. To me, you're right. He didn't act un-Kirk-like, and I didn't mind his acting. I bought it. Given the circumstances, he stood up to Pike just like he should have. He kind of called out the bullshit. I saw it. And he acted as I felt a Kirk, not necessarily William Shatner, but again Kirk. And that's what people they think. Well, William Shatner wouldn't do that. Okay, that's William Shatner, not Kirk. Is this true to the Kirk character? I enjoyed it for what it was.
He didn't. He challenged Pike when he needed to, or when he thought it was just, and he followed orders. He behaved as a Starfleet officer, which is one problem that Discovery had. Starfleet officers not behaving as Starfleet officers.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is something that I think in Kirk. I think they did a good job.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're about the time where I got to head off here, so I think we're going to cut that out. So, Roy, I'd like to have you on again at another time in the future to kind of discuss the old golden age of Star Trek, the 5 series is. Would you be willing to come on again and kind of shoot the shit about Star Trek?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I'm for a talk with you anytime.
Awesome. Well, then the pleasure will be mine. I will get this scheduled again and do it just like we did this time, and we'll talk turkey. So, sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. Well, Roy, thank you for taking the time to chat with me, and everybody in the chat, thank you for taking the time to show up. That being said, everyone, be genuine, be safe, and keep on geeking on, guys.